Good evening. This is Eugene Chan on Straight Talk. Our guest this evening is Financial Secretary Paul Chan. He needs no introduction and was on this show about a year ago to talk about the 2022 budget. Last week, Mr. Chan released the 2023 budget with the theme, Leaping Forward Steadily, Together we Bolster Prosperity under our new vision. So we have invited him again to tell us how far Hong Kong will be able to leap with this new budget. Welcome, FS.
Hi, Eugene, good to see you.
FS, I know that when you plan the budget, you have a few things on your mind. Firstly, you want to take care of the needy. You want to stimulate the economy and invest in the future. But when I look at the 2023 budget, it has given us a larger than expected deficit of nearly 139.8 billion this year and 54.4 billion next year. So with only 12 months of worth of spending in our kitty, can we afford this?
Certainly, certainly. If you look at our medium range forecasts, from the year 25-26, we will be returning to surplus situation, both on the operating account as well as on the capital account. Well, current year's deficit was because of, firstly, the COVID situation, which has taken longer time than expected to recover. And secondly, the depressed export situation, very weak external environment, as well as the disruption to the cross-border transport between Hong Kong and the mainland, and the slower growth of mainland. But all these situations will improve, and I'm confident that our economy will grow much faster this year, next year, on a longer term, going to be a more sustained, faster growth.
Right, Paul. I mean, it's very happy to know that you are sort of in full grasp of the situation. But when I look at your annual capital works expenditure that you just mentioned, from 24 to 28, we end up a fiscal reserve of 983.7 billion by the end of March 2028. That means an increase of a reserve, which is a good sign. However, which is like 40 months of government expenditure, like the 12 months now. But this is based on an assumption of, you just mentioned, the medium growth rate of 3.7%. Right now, the last budget you're basing it on 3% only.
True.
And currently we are only on 2.8%. Are we too confident that we will be able to get 3.7? And what if we don't?
Well, we have taken into consideration a number of factors. Number one, mainland's economy is recovering very fast and on a sustained growth basis. In fact, they will be growing at a pace much faster than the Western countries. With the reopening of the mainland, the rebound has been very strong. And secondly, although at the moment Europe is pretty challenging, and US to a lesser extent, but after going through this difficulty, our assessment is that they will back to their normal long-term growth trend. And on the other hand, the developing Asia, including ASEAN, has been developing very fast. The economic growth is tremendous. Say, for example, in the past few years, despite of global depressed demand, they are still growing very fast. And the trade between the mainland, Hong Kong, and developing Asia has been on the rise, and in fact overtaking European Union. So with all this, I think the external situation, the export situation will be good. Also, with the reopening of the border between Hong Kong and the mainland, tourists will come back, international tourists will come. That will help not just service export, but also our private consumption, as well as you see the IPO market. The stock market last year was pretty challenging globally. I'm confident this year there will be not just stabilizing the situation, but it's back to a growth situation.
Right. Certainly we hope that we'll reach that 3.7% on average. Some have also called on the government to widen our tax base, something we have talked about for many years. You haven't really done it right now. What are your reasons behind?
Well, you know, in the past few years, everyone is suffering, no matter it is SME or average citizen. So although we have given very detailed examination about the different options of increasing, say for example, our salaries tax, profits tax, we eventually decide to put this on hold, so to allow people to have some more breathing space, and let's review it again next year. Given this situation, and also our strategy at the moment is attracting enterprises, attracting talents, we don't want to send a contradicting signal. So that is current year's situation. That's why we just increased betting duty, because the impact is pretty limited.
Right. Since you mentioned that, I mean, you have introduced 2 new taxes, and the football betting duty raises 2.4 billion a year.
Yeah.
It's not a lot compared to our debt of like 140 billion this year. And many viewers have read the responses of the Hong Kong Jockey Club. They argue that they have done a lot to the community through their contribution, and by having more tax on them, they will reduce their bottom line, but only also damaging their business model and diminish their ability to contribute. So what is your say to that?
Well, we have given careful consideration as to the competitiveness of our betting industry vis-a-vis the international competition. We believe by levying a time-limited fixed lump sum, that is something that the Jockey Club can afford, given their huge reserve at the moment, and they are free to adjust how they operate and how to cope with this increase in the coming 5 years. Well, it is a difficult period for Hong Kong, so everybody needs to contribute. I do hope that both the community and the club would appreciate.
And just now we are talking about in terms of the tax base. I mean, now we have quite a so-called a more narrow tax base. So arguably, that you haven't got much alternative but to increase some of the taxes. I just want to bring one example. The stock trading stamp duty was increased before, and then we see the actual reduction in the trading activities. So with a similar measure, say on the football betting duty, do you think there will be any effect on that? Will it end up backfiring on the whole system?
I don't think so. And I think it is inappropriate to draw a causal relations between an increase, small increase on stamp duty and the turnover of the stock market. Because over the past 2 years, globally, the equities market has been going through pretty challenging environment. So we'll keep in view the changing situations about the stock market, but for the betting industry, looking at their growth trend, looking at the neighboring competitions, and looking at the operating profits before expenses, I'm confident this 2.4 billion additional duty is something that they can afford.
Right. Let's look at some of the middle class, which majority of the population is. You have a new program called Happy Hong Kong. We have a Hello Hong Kong before. Yeah. So it's sort of coming in pairs. So what exactly is Happy Hong Kong?
Well, you know, Hello Hong Kong is very much externally facing, trying to attract business tourists as well as tourists to come here for sightseeing. Well, the objective of Happy Hong Kong is to organize more activities for Hong Kong people to enjoy, to bring their family along, to have some good food, to have some good games. So apart from the government organize all these events in the different districts, we have the support of the West Kowloon Cultural Districts, the Ocean Park, the Disneyland, Science Park, as well as Cyberport. They are all going to organize events for families to go, for exploring different interesting aspects of our city.
Right. Before the break, I want to ask you one area that I'm sure you find it not easy to handle is what we call the consumption vouchers. And as I was reading all the people's comments, I know you're not in the so easy, difficult. I mean, you're quite difficult position to say because you can't please everyone. Some say that it's not enough from 10,000 to 5,000. Some people will say that why are we still having the need to voucher, especially now we are kind of in recovery. So my question to you is, can we put some fine print or more precision so that the cash will go on to stimulate the local economy rather than overseas? The reason I bring that up was many people say to me they will go to overseas for a trip and they use that voucher to buy a trip. So basically the money is spent overseas. But, have you ever thought of a way of putting the money right locally where the money will be value added to the industry? If you go and buy a handphone, basically it's a foreign made phone. So have you thought about that?
Well, if that argument is valid, going to the restaurants, all the materials are imported. Given Hong Kong, a small open economy, basically we import the best from any part of the world. You know, Hong Kong people prefer to have the freedom of choice. Right. And I think it is important for us to stimulate consumption as well as giving people the experience of the pleasure of spending. Not to mention the fact that, in fact, the tourism industry, the travel agents in the past few years have been suffering. So in a way, they also want the support from the government and the community.
Right. Thank you for explaining to the viewers. There's something that many people ask. Why isn't it be more precision? But obviously you have thought about it. So FS, let's go to a break now, and we will be right back, and do stay with us. Welcome back. We have been talking with our Financial Secretary Paul Chan about the government's new budget and how fiscal balance can be best maintained. We will be talking about some of the new initiatives that the government is investing in for the future. One area that many people will be concerned is about our property market. And I know the government is planning to build a lot more housing units for use, whether with or without Tomorrowland Tower. But looking at our population structure, there'll be some people immigrating. That always been the case. Do you ever concern about risk of oversupply? The reason being, now we're promoting more businesses, more travel between Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area. So there will be some population shift. So how can you sort of, as the word I used earlier, how can you be so precise in terms of planning for the housing needs for the future, and that's for the money that you put in?
Well, you know, number one, despite of short-term market fluctuations, it is important for us to continue to provide land supply to the market on a sustainable basis, so that when the market picks up, there would be enough supply available. Well, you know, last year for the residential property market, it was orderly adjustment. Down by about 15%. At the same time, the volume came down significantly to about 45,000 units a year as compared to over 75,000 the year before. So last year was exception. Even if you make reference to 2013 to 2020, over that 8-year period, the average yearly transaction was about 60,000. So currently, what is being held by the developers as completed units available for sale will be very quickly absorbed when the market returns. And we have seen a stabilizing market situation. Right. So we will keep in view closely the market situation. And for the government, at the moment, residential prices is still very high, not easy to afford. What we would like to see is orderly development and let the market place. But on this, at the same time, we make sure we have enough in store to respond to market changes. So FS, let's move to something that you have done for the future. You have earmarked more than $10 billion for innovation and technology, which includes a new micro electronics institute, which will produce chips for electric car manufacturing. This is really investing for the future and aligns us with the mainland strategies. Can you tell us a bit more? I mean, will we be a big player in this? Well, the two major engines for our future economic growth obviously is innovation and technology and financial services. So in the budget on financial services, in areas that we have been doing very well, we need to keep ourselves at the forefront, try to innovate so that we can continue to lead. And on financial services this year, we mentioned in particular Web3, virtual assets, as well as green tech and green finance. And on the other hand, on tech, the major initiative is focusing on advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, health science, and health tech. So in applying our resources, we try to give support, not just to the basic research, but also to midstream research, translation into also products and services, to build an ecosystem. And by building an ecosystem, we will be able to attract more strategic enterprises to come and more talents to come. And that will power our economy in the future.
FS, your critics will say that we are not advanced enough in this area to rely on I&T as a major pillar, that we don't even have enough talent. It will be a while for the area to pay dividends to us. So what will you reply to them?
Well, in the previous government, we spent about 160 billion in I&T. And honestly, if you go to Science Park, go to Cyberport, the ecosystem is coming. Pretty prosperous. Actually, I went to visit some of those startups in Science Park. But to contribute to our economy, it is not just startups and ecosystem, but businesses, enterprises, manufacturing facilities, and manufacturing activities. That is why we are trying to attract such companies to come, and at the same time attract talents to come. Right. Because these two are interactive. When you have major enterprises anchoring here, you will be able to bring a whole supply chain here.
So that
and
means,
also the talents.
So that means there are still challenges there. So they are quite right to say that we don't have enough talents yet, but it will come.
Well, what they have pointed out is perhaps historic and current situation. Okay. But eyeing on the future, this is something that we are tackling. And I'm very confident Hong Kong is in a unique position to attract these people and these companies to come. And that would be helping us, in the meantime, grooming our own talents, but filling the gap to sustain us, to achieve this vision.
See, always people like to give you comments. I mean, I'll call them critics, all right? I'm sure you listen to them. They also say that we should rely on existing market like tourism, finance, and services for the economic recovery rather than gambling with new areas. So how will you reply them again? Well,
financial services, we have been doing very well. But say, for example, financial services contribute to GDP of Hong Kong about 22%, but employing only 7% of our population. Tourism, yes, contributing to about 5 to 6%, employing a bigger number of people, I mean. So in that sense, if we want to provide good job opportunities, upward mobility opportunities, we need to move up the value chain and diversify our industry base. And innovation and technology is the way to come. And we have chosen AI, robotics, health tech, health science, as well as microelectronics as the few areas that in the medium term, we will focus our energy and resources.
Right, FS, I mean, you have pointed out very clearly that we have moved up the value chain to keep Hong Kong abreast in the rest of the world. But are you worried about the actual worsening geopolitical tensions may result in sanctions on transfers of new technologies to Hong Kong? This is something that we can't control. What is your thought on that?
Well, geopolitical risk is something that we have to pay attention to and manage all the time, granted. But on the other hand, under the one country, two systems arrangement, Hong Kong is in the best position to do this. And in our past 2 years' experience, and in particular, our close encounter with international scientists, professors, I can see the opportunities of Hong Kong in attracting these people back. So I think we stand in a good position to promote this, and that's why we put money into it to develop the infrastructure, to buy the equipments, to enable the gathering of international and mainland expertise in Hong Kong to collaborate, work together to develop this sector.
For FS, I can feel that you are really looking to the future. And one area is green tech and green fi. I mean, why does Hong Kong have the potential to be sort of the stated as an international green tech and green fi center?
Well, you know, green tech globally is a global trend. And this is something up and coming. According to some research, the green tech sector, the value of this particular sector at the moment in 2021 is about slightly over 40 billion. But it will grow tremendously into 2030 by more than 10 times. The average annual growth is over 30%. So this is a huge area. Green fi, Hong Kong is leading in Asia. The total amount of green bonds and debts we issue the year before last already exceeded about $57 billion US. So we are in a good position to integrate all this, particularly when we look at the green tech companies, say for example in Science Park and Cyberport. We can bring these two advantages together and move it to a higher development.
Right.
And this is something in the international arena, no one at the moment is leading. So it is an opportunity for us to lead in this aspect.
Right. FS is also people expressing concern that we are investing a lot in the future. And currently is a high interest rate environment. And will this result in high government debt in the future so they will pass on the burden to the next few governments?
Oh, don't worry about it. At the moment, the debt to GDP ratio of Hong Kong is about 4.5%. We plan to issue bonds to the order of about 65 billion annually in the next 5 years. At the end of 26-27, our debt to GDP ratio is only about 9.5%, right. Very safe. But with all this money, we'll be able to invest timely on various infrastructures and public works projects so that the community can benefit earlier. And in fact, by doing so, it will also release development potentials of the land along those railway lines and also make the facilities available for the tech companies that we want to attract.
FS, the last question of the show. The budget is very forward-looking and we're investing in the future, and you are saying that we are right in the value chain and we should be all right. So we come back to the title of our show today. How far forward do you think Hong Kong can leap with this budget? Simple answer.
Well, this is the step in the right direction. It requires the support and the hard work of the community. And in the government, we will continue to practice proactive government serving an efficient market. So in areas that need the government to take leadership, to invest, we will be very bold and proactive. But at the same time, we will leave enough room for those areas that we should allow the market to play out. With this and with the support of the community, I'm very confident.
Right, thank you. Thank you, FS Paul Chen, for coming to share with us his rationale for the budget. We certainly hope that it will enable our economy to make that leap forward beyond recovery into building for the future, and look forward to further good news through the year. Have a good week and good night.